So for this flight, we're actually on the A380. Typically this flight is actually taken on the 777, but today we got quite lucky. So we're sitting on the lower deck today. When you can see, that's the formation which we're just sitting in, but we have two people in the middle aisle. Specifically, we're sitting in row 11. I think the difference between this and the upper deck, which is where I actually sat on my way back from Texas, is that the middle aisle actually only has space for one person. So it's great if you're traveling by yourself. In this case, it was actually perfect for us because we were a group of 3. Originally, it was just me and Lewis in the middle, and then Darshan was able to join in on the side. I don't think this seating arrangement is that great if you're traveling alone and you've paid cash, because it's not very private if you are sitting in the middle section. On top of this, if you are fiddling around quite a bit, it can annoy your neighbour, as seen over here, so it's not great if you don't actually know them. So the flight on this day was actually delayed by almost an entire hour, so we were spending an entire hour sitting idle on the airfield, but it wasn't that bad given that we were in business.
How's it so far?
So we had quite a bit of time to get familiar with the seat and all the amenities. Over here, Lewis ended up actually pulling up the duvet from the storage found at the bottom of the seat. That department can actually be used as a little storage box, as I've shown over here. The interesting part of this White Company duvet case is that if you are not actually using it during the flight at any point, you are instructed by the crew to put it in overhead lockers. After we received our hot towels, I had to make sure that Lewis was still comfortable. So given that Lewis is quite a tall guy, and that this is his first time in business, you really wanted to get into the sleeping position as soon as possible. As you can see, in order to get into the sleeping position, you does actually have to put the table away, so there's no way to have drinks around you or anything else that might obstruct your sleeping position. The little grey stools at the end of your seat are in fact the leg rests, which can be used for sleeping mode, or you can also pivot them downwards, so they almost act as a footstool. Overall, they're quite fiddly to deal with, and they also obstruct your way when trying to leave your seat, as well as getting in the way of others when you're trying to get out of your seat. The next part of setting up your sleeping arrangement is, of course, being able to move the seat down. The buttons on the side where Lewis is pressing currently is very easy to access, and the buttons essentially move the seat back and forth and also have the ability to inflate or deflate your lumbar support. Overall, him moving the seat didn't annoy me as I couldn't feel it, so that was perfectly fine. There are also some honourable mentions here. There's actually a blue button over here that sets your seat to flight mode, which is when you have to take off or land. And on the far right, you actually have the button that controls the shutter so that you don't have to see your neighbour. One of the annoying features of this older version of business with BA is that these shutters make a horrible scratching noise or grinding noise when going up or down, and so it's not really great if you don't want to disturb your neighbours. To the right of me sits the remote as well as the headphone jack.
On the one underneath, you can't get to it. It's kind of weird,
Fortunately for us, there is in fact another USB port by your feet next to the lower storage, as well as a universal socket. Moving on to the storage box, you can in fact find the signature White Company Amenties Kit, as well as a bottle of mineral water. This storage is pretty useful, given that this is pretty much your only storage compartment in your entire seat. My storage bin wouldn't exactly close, but it's okay given that there is quite a bit of room. Luckily at this point, Darshan was able to move next to us when the person sitting there said the IEF doesn't work in their seat.
There he is.
It was then 30 to 40 minutes into the flight I actually did get my first drink, which was just a Coke, as well as a snack on the side. Also good to mention, we did get welcome drinks, but I didn't get one, as indicated by Lewis's glasses. Back to the White Company Amenties Kit, we did in fact obviously get the signature grey compression socks and the blindfold, which Lewis kindly tested for us.
Oh, I expect them to be longer. Do they not look like they'll be a lot longer?
Yeah. I thought they were. I guess I can call them.
Pretty comfy actually.
Continuing on with the rest of the Amenties Kit, first off we start with the dental kit, which is just a toothbrush along with a small pack of Colgate, this Pulse Point cream, some earplugs, and some lip balm. Luckily, we also had Lewis on site to test these as well.
Pretty good. Fragrance, ready?
A little bit, not really.
Next being the lip balm, which the plane also tasted.
So it's good tasting. This? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of implied if it's lip balm.
Alright, he's trying on it.
Oh my god.
So how did the lip balm get up there?
So the tray table also works as you expect, it folds out from the side and then moves back and forth. Probably not enough room to get out of your seat with it still out.
These windows keep coming out. It's the old BA cabin, man. I'm not happy with it, are you?
No, it's not good enough.
Not good enough, is it? For our fully paid tickets.
Yes, you read that correctly, £200. So this flight was actually sponsored by Darshan. Darshan works for a subsidiary of British Airways, meaning that he gets a special ticket once a year, which bumps up your price over standby flights. So standby flights are when you basically just jump on any flight available, and you managed to get for us for £200.
This TV doesn't work.
That's actually crazy.
No one's still coming.
There was no menu either on these seats.
No menu.
His table doesn't even lay flat. Look at that. His table lays
I
flat.
said, someone said, "Oh, I'll come around." So
If the screen doesn't work, so he asked the guy to fix it. He thought he asked him to pull it out.
So after that little laugh, me and Lewis decided to take a look at the menu, which consisted of a few cocktails and spirits and a wide variety in general for alcoholic beverages. Lunch was made up of salmon, mozzarella, soup, and for your main course you could choose between cod, ricotta and pork. For dessert you could of course opt for the fruit, the variety of cheese, a lemon meringue bar, or a chocolate cake. Of course, flying with British Airways, this would then lead on to afternoon tea, where you can get scones and jam, sweet treats, and a variety of sandwiches. Overall, the menu looked pretty good, and even Lewis himself had a hard time choosing. In the end, I opted for the salmon and cream cheese, which came with a warm loaf of bread, some salted butter, the beetroot salad which had goat's curd, and I opted for a tea. Lewis and Darshan actually opted for something different. Lewis ended up getting the mozzarella and the tomato, and Darshan ended up getting the ricotta. The salmon itself was really good. The shrimp I did not have, actually handed it over to Darshan, but he said it was good. The remainder of the salad on the plate was actually very nice as well. Next I tried the pizza bread, and that was really good. It was still warm, it's really fluffy on the inside, slightly hard on the outside, but really good. I'd probably give it 8 out of 10. Afterwards I had to try it with the butter, of course. The butter itself was quite hard to scoop out, as you can see, and also kind of difficult to spread. That's most likely just due to the way they have to store it, which means it gets really hard. So you can't complain too much, but it would be nice if that was actually more spreadable. Overall, the taste was still quite good. It wasn't too salty, it tasted not too strong, and so with the bread it worked perfectly. Next I then tried the beetroot salad, which also contained goat's cheese curd, I believe, or goat curd, however you say that. The salad overall was very neutral, quite balanced. The beetroot wasn't too sour or tart, and it worked well with the bread. It was definitely refreshing to have on the side. So then the funny thing is that I hadn't realised that those were the only sides I was going to get before the mains came, so I kind of just devoured all the salad and the bread, and the mains came afterwards. I thought we'd get some other sides or something, I don't know, so I ended up having the mains by itself. So speaking of mains, I ended up getting the grilled North Atlantic cod. It came with some Bombay potatoes and 5-spice broccoli, with a sauce consisting of tomato and a coconut base. I ended up finding the fish to be quite dry, very fishy, and also very chewy, so it wasn't that great if I'm being honest. And to make things worse, I had this rambling buffoon next to me who couldn't use his cutlery. With that being said, you can tell that the cutlery is quite good as it is solid and made that massive clank sound when he dropped it. Overall, as an entire dish, the broccoli was pretty good and the potatoes were actually quite good, so I can't be too harsh. Overall, I'd probably give it a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Moving on to the final course, and probably the best course, we have dessert. I ended up opting for the lemon meringue bar, which came with fresh raspberry sauce and a nice Stow & Co little chocolate button. On the first bite, the tartness of the raspberry did catch me off guard, but overall, I ended up coming around, and I think this was definitely probably the best part of the entire meal. You can also tell that it was probably the best one, given how quickly Lewis devoured that. So after we finished our food and waited for afternoon tea, we decided to check out the IEF. First gripe I have with this is that the screen was a bit laggy, probably a 0.5 to 1 second lag between the moment you press it and something happens, but you are in the sky and you do have a TV, so I guess that's fine. So starting on the My Journey section, you do have information here on the onboard Wi-Fi service, arrivals and immigration, and your journey. I didn't bother clicking in here too much as the Wi-Fi is obviously not free, whether you purchase this ticket full in cash, via reward points, or the way we did. In the arrivals and immigration section, you can find a variety of brochures relating to your destination. It wasn't already pre-selected to the destination we were heading to, but it's cool to see that you can read everything from here. Now onto the entertainment section. Obviously I had a selection between television and movies, so I opted for television first. Scrolling through this, we can see that there is an all TV section, which is probably the best way to show you guys, but there was also a box set section and a Paramount Plus section. Overall, any TV shows they did have here kind of only had a few episodes from select seasons, so it would have been kind of annoying had you gotten into a show. Some of the shows are also ones I hadn't really heard about. Maybe that's just because I don't watch TV or that interested in new shows, but definitely nothing here that I generally recognize, but it did seem like an okay selection. Not sure if they're biased by going with Paramount Plus's selections. I guess the disappointing thing that I found as I went through this more is that it seemed to only be Paramount Plus selections, which meant that I kind of just buggered off of the television section and straight to the movie selection. I went straight for the newest release section. Over here I did find movies that did seem fairly recent, not sure if they were the newest at the time. For example, Barbie may have came out at the end of 2023, this flight took place mid 2024, so I'm not sure if that's exactly newest release, but I guess that's new to them. Now the other section on the screen was the Disney Plus section, which was just a subset of the previous list of films, so I guess it's just an easier way to separate those from the rest of them, but not much promo otherwise. But they did have Phineas and Ferb. The funny part was that Darshan's IEF didn't work, and neither did Lewis's, so we all ended up watching Phineas and Ferb on my screen.
With a fresh brew dog.
This guy is like determined to smash me.
Eventually, Lewis got really tired of Darshan and ended up falling asleep. Meanwhile, me and him and Kaidam chilled out and waited for afternoon tea to be served. So starting on the left with an egg mayo with chives on brioche, Wiltshire ham and cheddar cheese trio, and then a smoked salmon with cream cheese on brioche. Given that it was afternoon tea, we had a scone with some clotted cream, some really sweet jam, a lemon eclair, and coffee cake, with the English tea on the side. Similar to the previous meal, we were also given some silverware, and I was also given some sugar on the side for the tea. It's also good to note that Lewis actually copied me, and Darshan went the other way.
That's thinking good cheese. I think that's the egg mayonnaise.
Yep.
And that's the pesto with red shit.
Oh, that's good.
Starting off with the egg, mayo, and chive brioche, this was really good. The bun was incredibly soft, the eggs were really fluffy and light, and you got a nice little aromatic flavour from the chives. After that, I went straight for the ham and cheese, the triple stacked one, and this was god tier. This is the first time I had a ham and cheese sandwich, so that may have played a part. Everything in here tasted amazing. Nothing was too out of line, too salty, everything worked perfectly. This was followed by a quick swig of the tea just to refresh my palate. Onto the final sandwich, which is very similar to the starter of the previous set of meals. It's salmon and cream cheese. But on the brioche bun, it was very nice. The cream cheese again was very salty, very creamy, and so everything worked really well together. After devouring the sandwiches, I then unrolled the napkin to find the rest of the cutlery that I needed for the remainder of the dishes. The next target on the table was in fact the scone, so I had to get the clotted cream ready as well as the strawberry jam. So the cool thing here is that when I picked up the scone, it kind of just broke apart immediately with a little bit of force, so that meant I didn't really have to spend my time cutting it across to maybe spread everything out. Overall, the scone was quite good. It was very soft, very fluffy, had a bit of a sweetness to it, not much, but of course the jam here was doing most of the work, given that this type of jam with the artificial sweetener does make it really sweet, so the clotted cream does balance it out quite a bit. Another quick shot of tea to cleanse my palate once again before I tackle the next sweet dish. So the first one I tackled was the lemon eclair. It was a bit weird due to the tartness of the lemon, but overall it works kind of okay, not really that great. Probably a 3 out of 10 if I'm being honest. I wouldn't hesitate to eat it again if it was in front of me, but definitely not my favourite. Finally, moving on to the coffee cake. The coffee cake was pretty standard, but definitely better than the lemon eclair. Overall, the two desserts together were pretty okay, but the scone itself was pretty sufficient for something sweet. After that bit of food had concluded, we ended up chilling for the rest of the flight, but not before Lewis gave us his final word on the flight.
How was your first time in business? Anything else to say? Fair enough.
The shortest reviews.
And with those famous last words from Lewis, the video ends here. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider liking and subscribing.